right, hello and welcome. How is everyone doing on this wonderful Tuesday, January the 19th, 2021? We are in for a fun episode tonight, as always, with SeaQuest, Season 1, Episode, I believe we're up to 18, called The Stinger, and 54.5 Axis Radio. My clips started to go. Stop that, clips. Not yet. Whenever communication starts going early, that's so annoying. But no, Stinger, does the tip count as 54.5 Access Radio? I think you might be thinking of something else. Something else that I don't believe has ever had the nickname Stinger? I don't know. John, are you familiar with any such nickname? Yeah, that'd definitely be a new one for me as well. So no, I don't think we're talking about that. Although, as John points out, according to Bird of Prey 5, it does. But Professor Brainy Specs says no, but this is a very, very different Stinger, as you guys will see here shortly. Springtime, how are you doing tonight? And Cinnabon Bunny, Steve Irwin dies this episode. Is that too soon? That may be a little too soon there, Cinnabon. No, not that sort of Stinger. But we do get kind of, I don't know, we get some interesting back and forth about the Stinger versus the Gazelle and what appropriate names are. Springtime is saying, Life with Matthew, I heard that Captain Bridger actually sabotaged the Stinger because he had money invested in the computing submarine. You're half right. You were half right, and you will see how that unfolds by the end of the episode tonight. How close to right you actually were, Springtime. Well, John, how has your week been going? Pretty good. Had a good virtual pub last night. Missed out on Professor Brainy Specs. Wasn't up on the panel. But beyond that, good pub. Also missing out Thomas as he's on his YouTube sabbatical. I'll be glad when he joins us again at some point in the future. But other than that, a good stream. And Professor Brainy Specs is saying that we can't hear John. You sure about that? Let's see. StreamYard. Oh. Gosh. Yeah, try now, John.
Hello, can you hear me? Hear me?
Yep, there we go.
Hello?
That was
Good.
my fault.
Okay.
Yeah, as always, it was my fault. Well, I say it's my fault, but I don't know why this one happened this time. In OBS, you can actually select which audio you want to output to your stream. Like, you don't have to mute it so that I can always hear it. But I can say, I don't want this specific audio source going out to everyone. And for some reason, it randomly decided that my connection that has John on it, it shouldn't go out to the stream. So, you know, life is funny. But thank you, Professor Brainy Specs, for letting us know so we could get that fixed before the episode started to get going here. Hey, Multi-Gunman, how's it going? It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good indeed. Got a lot of work, just in life in general, so it kind of makes it hard to find time to do videos. But I was kind of glad that last night I decided that just that little bit of me talking at the end about, whatever show came out recently, WandaVision, I could take just that one little clip and upload it today. And, that way anyone who either didn't stay awake for the whole pub or didn't want to watch a whole pub just for a 10-minute what I thought of WandaVision, well, there you go. So I plan to do more of those, especially, not just me talking, but especially whenever we have, just some really funny moment. Like last night, there was a really funny joke done about how you could get Deadpool back in the MCU. So I think I'll clip that out, and we'll do more of these fun little highlights for anyone who missed the pub and doesn't want to sit through the whole, 4-hour shenanigans that is pub life. Cinnabon Bunny wants to know, did I have a pub last night? Yeah. Yeah, I did. And Springtime is saying the captain of SeaQuest was pretty corrupt. What is eventually came out, the SeaQuest was literally built by the lowest bidders, but Captain Bridger has a fairly large mansion in Hawaii. Well, as Patrick Stewart once said, it's good to be king.
Unfortunately, I may have to call fake news on that one.
Well, he did have, gosh, were the entire island his at the beginning of SeaQuest, or was it just he was living on the island basically by himself?
He was by himself. I don't know if he actually owned the island or not.
It might have been a real tiny island, more of an atoll, really, or a small little blip in an atoll, I should say, because an atoll would be potentially bigger than an island. So no, I mean maybe like a small little sandy rock with some vegetation on it in an atoll. Cinnabon Bunny saying, "I'll wait for the uncut version." Well, good news, Cinnabon. The uncut version is already up. It stays up as soon as the stream ends. So anytime you want to go back and watch it, knock yourself out. It's there for future generations, so you can see how many dumb things we say and how wrong we are with all of our guesses. Cinnabon's Bunny saying, "I don't see a notification for it, so I don't believe you." Well, it's certainly not something you could check on your own and click my channel, look at all videos. Definitely not something you can do. YouTube is not friendly like that, let's be honest. Poe's in the house saying, "Howdy everyone." Hey Poe, how you doing? We are just kind of hanging out for a minute here before we get this week's episode, The Stinger, going. And as you can see, I got a new setup. So last week's episode, even though it was identical to all the other reviews I've been doing, last week was the straw somehow. And whoever owns this, NBC, I guess, did a, not a copyright strike, they did a content ID match. And usually with those, they'll say something like, you know what, you can't monetize this video, we're going to take the money from it, whatever money you make from it, which, joke's on them, I don't make money because I'm not monetized. But, they still get the money all of zero. And, I'm usually okay with it. I think that they're usually overly aggressive. But whatever. Send money off to the people who made this. We're here to support SeaQuest anyway, which is why, as always, if you are watching in the future, you can see this on Peacock TV now. All you have to do is sign up for a free email address. #Peacock. I still love you. Please sponsor me. But on the sad side of things, like I said, that's how they usually do it. This time, however, they blocked it globally. You cannot watch last week's episode that we did anywhere in the world because they said something about it they didn't like. It was a short segment that they popped up, and I thought it was going to be when I messed up and the audio was coming through, guys, but nope. It was well after that point. It was just a random series of clips like I always do, and they got mad about it. So I went ahead and I made this real quick, which if you haven't seen some of the other stuff I do, I like to take screenshots from Star Trek mainly and make a green screen. So anyone who wants to do a green screen, there's the view screen in your background and you're on the Enterprise bridge. There's a fun resource just to kind of support people. I do a horrible job at it, but it's still, humble brag here, it's still better than any of the stuff I've seen out there. At least 90% of the green screens I've seen out there, I feel like I've done at least a little bit better of a job. So I wanted to do this for a while anyway, because I thought it'd be fun to do a green screen for SeaQuest. And this was exactly what I needed, so I whipped this up real quick. And now we have something where when I talk, we got my voice going. When John talks, you can see his voice. And you can see the clips in the view screen below. And hopefully that will be just enough such that in the future, SeaQuest doesn't get, or not SeaQuest, NBC doesn't get uppity and get mad that we're doing what is 100% protected under the Fair Use Clause, and that is namely showing stills so that we can do commentary on another person's work. 100% protected under free speech, at least in America. So, hopefully that's enough, guys. Hopefully this is all we have to do, because I love doing this, and even if each time they did a content match, which doesn't hurt my channel at all, it's not a copyright strike, this doesn't hurt me at all, but it does make it impossible for anyone in the future to actually see this. So I am hoping that this will be enough, and if it's not, hopefully I can download last week's, throw up a couple filters over it, and get it through. Maybe something more or less like this. I don't know. We'll figure something out, guys. But hopefully that's all we have to do.
I would say it's a great looking setup, Matthew.
Well, thank you. I wish I could say that it was really hard to do and like really flex my, oh yeah, I'm so amazing. But the sound stuff, it is a plugin that you can add to OBS. Someone else did all the heavy lifting for me. All I had to do is say that I want it to be that big, and that was it. Like that was literally all I had to do for that one. All this other stuff is like paint. I took a circle and broke it in half. Boom, we're golden. The hardest thing was just this border, and honestly, again, that's practically paint level stuff where you just drag your lines around until it looks right. So I appreciate the thanks, but it wasn't that hard. People like Yitsa, he's the one who did the logo for this channel and a logo for a lot of the people in our community. He does fantastic work, and each time he'll make something for me, I'm just blown away by the quality of stuff he does. Like, it's funny because I'll try to modify it just a little, like, oh, I'd like this change, and he's like, oh my goodness, what are you doing? And then like within half a second, he'll fix it, make it look amazing. So I'm constantly floored by by his abilities, and I'm just a guy, making stick figures in paint. But with all that, I suppose one of the things that'd be really useful at this moment is to go ahead and drop a link to our watch party screening room. So I'm going to pin this so anyone who comes and sees this later, as long as you're watching it right now with us, you will be able to go to our watch room. And what this does is it allows us to sync up all of our watch times so that we can watch this, and whenever we are commenting on something, you're seeing exactly what we're commenting on. If you're watching this in the future and you're not watching this live, this link won't work. You have to be watching it now with us. In the future, what you have to do, go to peacocktv.com, sign up for their free service, and you can watch all of SeaQuest DSV, even the stuff that is like a 20-year time skipper or something like that for the season 3, But hopefully you watch them at the same pace as I'm watching them, which is once a week, even though I really just want to binge this show so hard. But, I'm being good, and hopefully at some point in the future, I'm loving this so much doing this with John. Hopefully at some point, Professor Brainy Specs and I can do a version of this with Babylon 5, which I don't know if he'll still be up for this whenever I finally get a chance to start doing that one. But it's something I'd love to do with him because I have yet to see Babylon 5 as well, which I know I would give up my nerd card now, but I had to give it up years ago because I'm just so horribly behind on all the nerd stuff.
I'm about in the same boat as you. I only saw a couple episodes when it was out.
Well, see, it released, was it the same year as or the year before DS9?
I don't remember. I know it was close.
I want to say they released the same year, and I was already a Star Trek fan, and so I gravitated toward DS9, whereas honestly I think Babylon 5 was made for a little more mature audience, even though DS9 eventually went to some very mature places, all things considered. But I think from the get-go, Babylon 5, it was aimed at a more mature audience, and it was aimed at a harder degree of sci-fi than Star Trek. Like, we've talked about this in the past. You have high sci-fi, and you have hard sci-fi. And hard sci-fi is things like Isaac Asimov, where, he goes through, these are the possibilities, and we kind of think about what those possibilities are, but all this is grounded in hard scientific principles. At least accurate for the time. Accurate-ish. Whereas high sci-fi is more like, your wizards and elves and stuff just put in a sci-fi fantasy setting instead of a, Middle Earth fantasy setting. So I kind of feel like Babylon 5 was more of the closer to the hard sci-fi side of things, where there was more grounded in reality, whereas Star Trek by that point in time had really become more of a high sci-fi, not truly high sci-fi. There was still the kernel of truth within Star Trek at this point. We hadn't gotten to Discovery and Picard yet. Well, I hope that everyone is in the watch area who is going to watch this with us. For everyone who is not in the watch area, which I have pinned that link over that away-ish. For everyone else, we will be doing the clips right below here, and I'll give you a countdown so that if you are watching this in the future, you can sync it up with us, guys. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to hit the play button over in the screening room in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Tonight on SeaQuest.
Now, these are performance trials for UEO, a single seat underwater
So this
submersible.
episode opens up in a weird way, and I'm not sure if this was just something weird Peacock did, or if this is how it aired officially. But the episode starts off with a preview of what you're going to see in the episode itself. Like, it's almost like they did the trailer for next week at the beginning of this episode for some reason. And audio is coming in the stream. Is it really? But where? How? Who?
Boy, that's fast.
Why?
Good work.
Thank you, sir.
Why? Not that one. This one. There you go. That should have killed the audio. I don't know. StreamYards is being a little screwy with me right now, but hopefully that was enough to keep audio from coming in.
I do seem to remember about the little intro that they did that it was part of the original broadcast.
How interesting. And Professor Brain Specs is saying, yes, it stopped. Thank you for that. I'll try and figure out something in the future so we don't get these weird things. We all know I won't. Okay, so what's going on is that Lewis is driving this experimental sub that apparently he had some hand in making, and Hitchcock had a hand in making. And, you know, he's really excited. They're going extremely fast, but he's doing all these maneuvers and stuff, and Bridgers tells him, knock it off. Just go in a straight line. This is a prototype of a prototype sub. Things are held together with, you know, baling wire and duct tape. Don't do anything fancy. We just want to see if your concept will work in general. So he's like, fine, I'll do it a straight line. And, you know, they're saying there's some discrepancies. Lewis is saying that he's doing like 100. Hitchcock is saying that her speedometer is saying 110. And then you got this guy in a dinghy, presumably monitoring Lewis. And then you have a van up on the hillside also monitoring Lewis. So somehow everyone is aware of this test and are trying to figure out what's going on with the Stinger. And the guys in the van are complaining that this is a really fast sub, but somehow they're still going to be able to hit him because they want to disable the sub but not blow it up. Now, as Lewis starts to increase speed, he does get some shimmy, which we got to see that happen in Enterprise. Whereas they got close to the Warp 5 barrier, you know, the ship started to shake a little bit, and they had to get to the point where Trip figured out how to condense the plasma flow. And once they got over this hurdle, you know, things smoothed out. And that's what we're seeing happen with Lewis. That once he gets going fast enough, he's able to kind of get past this shaking that was happening. But even with that, Bridger tells him to slow it on down. But unfortunately, as Lewis slows things down, we see a cannon that was cleverly placed underwater track him and shoot him, disabling his propulsion and sending him into this, or not disabling his propulsion, but disabling his control and sending him into this crazy spiral, just spinning round and round all over the place. And of course, Lewis is freaking out.
If only Darwin had been there to save him.
Yeah. I mean, surely Darwin could do a measly 100 miles an hour. But, unfortunately, Darwin was not. He does show up by the end of the episode, I think. He makes a brief cameo. And Springtime is saying it was built by unpaid work. The UEO used slave labor from North Korea. You know, it wasn't slave labor. The North Koreans were extremely happy to fulfill the wishes of the dear leader of North Korea. There is nothing wrong going on in North Korea. I'm sure YouTube will fact check that to be 100% true. That North Korea is the bastion of freedom. So, I think your facts are incorrect, Springtime.
Bridger and Hitchcock are still flying around in their little shuttle trying to find what happened to Lucas. I'm sorry, I mean Lewis.
There you go. But they recognize that they've lost track of him, but they have no debris trail, so they know the ship wasn't blown up. So they're trying to figure out, should they look on the surface, should they look in the middle, should they look on the ground? And Hitchcock is like, no, if this ship stops moving, it will sink, which is interesting to me. So it's almost like a jet fighter, that it doesn't have a true ballast system aboard. It's more like it just has jet propulsion, which the submarine equivalent of jet propulsion. But fortunately, Lewis is just aces. He was able to hit the eject button, and because he was wearing his flotation device, aka Data's backside, he was able to float up to the surface, even if it does seem like he maybe hit his head a bit and is unconscious at this moment.
And thankfully the guy in the dinghy came to his rescue and pulled him on shore.
How you doing tonight, Robert Rose Jr.? North Korea is about as free as a fox in a foxtrap. Oh, you gotta be careful about comments like that. YouTube will fact check me, and we'll probably have a wonderful link to Google, totally unaffiliated with YouTube, showing how that statement was false, and you can just look at their cities and see how pristine they are, and how their grocery stores are so perfectly clean and empty all the time, and that proves that North Korea is free. But we do see that this old man in the dinghy was able to, he saw some sort of homing device on Lewis, so he clicked it on, and once the homing device was activated, everyone is rejoicing and so happy, and they are heading to wherever Lewis was up on the shoreline. Meanwhile, this guy is like halfway concerned about Lewis. He's kind of blasé, but at the same time, like, hey, come on, you got this cut, put some pressure on it. But he's saying that the tide's going out, your people will be here soon. You'll be fine. I'm gonna get out of here. And Lewis is wondering, who are you, sir? And the guy responds with, well, I'm a dreamer, son, just like you. And then he and his mysterious briefcase get out of there. Springtime saying that guy probably has a van with free candy. So Lewis is, getting medical attention from Dr. Westphalen, and he's like, is there going to be a scar? And she goes, no, you'll still retain your beautiful baby face. And he goes, I don't want a baby face. I want a cool scar. Which I remember being that age. I always thought like a really hardcore scar, like across the eye or something, would have been pretty awesome to have.
And now Lewis and Hitchcock are arguing about what to call the submersible. Is it a Stinger or a Gazelle?
And Bridger cuts in saying, this boat was built under the auspices of the SeaQuest. If anyone's going to name it, it's going to be me. But right now, he doesn't care about the name. He tells Hitchcock to get back to her station. And we find out now that Lucas is a college graduate. So even though he's like 17-year-old, he is an extremely bright 17-year-old. And he is at this point a college graduate. Which I feel like is supposed to be something that recently happened. Because Bridger makes the comment that if he does any causes you any trouble, let him know. And then her response is, well, I'm sure he won't cause me trouble. He's a college graduate. Like, this is something he recently achieved, so surely he's past the foolishnesses of youth. So Krieg and Tim Raimi over here are kind of arguing back and forth. Krieg wants to pilot the sea crab thing, and Raimi brother is pointing out all the times that Krieg somehow crashed one of their shuttle pods. He's like, you flew it into a volcano, and Krieg's like, well, it was Uncharted. It's like, you did this other thing, you crashed it into an island, and Krieg is like, well, it was the tsunami's fault. And it turns out like he was trying to surf the tsunami and managed to get his ship crashed on an island. But the bigger issue at hand is that... Oh, go on, John.
They found some tracks, like something may have dragged away the stinger.
And Hitchcock is really upset at this moment. She's concerned that it's missing, but she's more concerned because she only has 2 days to get it back and fix it. Because at this point, they're really convinced that somehow Lewis messed things up, that something broke. And she knows she only has 2 days to fix it, because in 2 days, they're presenting this to some sort of private industry or the UEO high command as a part of a contest to see who's going to get a government contract to make these fast ships. And then we're seeing how this device actually works, where this part made me laugh. You can't get all the science right 100% of the time. But Lewis brags about how he discovered super luminosity and able to create this kind of bubble around the fish so it can go super fast and not be slowed down by the drag of water. And Bridger kind of he rebukes him like, excuse me, you didn't discover this. God discovered it when he made the fish. So let's not get too full of a head. And, Lewis is like, okay, fine. What I meant was actually this more humble thing.
Yeah, I love Bridger.
Yes, Robert Rose Jr. Krieg is kind of the Doogie Howser of SeaQuest. Although they have recently been giving him more responsibility and kind of maturing him a little bit. Like he's had several episodes throughout the season where he's become a more responsible individual, although he's always going to have those inherent qualities that make him so lovable. And here they do find, as John was saying, that there appears to be some sort of tracks where someone found the stinger, or gazelle, as you may want to call it, and took it away.
And Bridger thinks this might be some kind of act of corporate espionage, because there are several other private companies also in a competition to create a similar submersible.
So Bridger wants to get a hold of Admiral Paris, but he's being stonewalled by this red tape guy who's saying, well, you can't talk to him. There's 25,000 other people who want to talk to Admiral Noyce right now, which is Admiral Paris's real name in the show is Admiral Noyce. There's 25,000 people that want to talk to him. I can't give you preferential treatment. People are already mad enough that the UEO is even trying to put up one of these super fast subs. They consider this to be an unfair advantage because it was supposed to be private industry and only private industry. So I can't show you preferential treatment at all. And Bridger's saying, well, someone stole our ship. He says, well, do you think that this is a military emergency? And it's interesting, his response is no. I would kind of say that, yes, someone's stealing a military prototype that was developed by, the UEO represents a serious issue, a military issue. But for whatever reason, Bridger says no, and so the red tape bureaucrat says, okay, then goodbye. So instead, they go over the logs trying to figure out what happened to the Gazelle Stinger. And as they're reviewing the logs, they find out that there was some other ship immediately above the Stinger. And they think that perhaps this unidentified ship is whatever was used, or had the device that was used to disable the Stinger. So they're showing the competition out there. You have the president of Hydrogear, or a CEO level individual of Hydrogear, the main competition. And you find out that Hydrogear has a huge stake in this, that their stock has really gone up recently because Hydrogear made some really impressive claims, and they're going to need to seal this deal if they want to back up those claims. Meanwhile, everyone else has gone off the radar. They've either gone bankrupt or something else has happened that has caused them to give up on the competition. So they bring up this guy right here, and they say that this guy, he's running a shop out of a garage, basically. And Lewis goes, well, that's the guy who was in the dinghy who pulled me to the shore. And you find out that he used to work for Hydrogear, but he disagreed with their policies, and so he left Hydrogear like 5 or so years ago, maybe 10 years ago. He left Hydrogear some time ago and has set up his own shop.
Here's Bridger putting Lewis in his place again when he's starting to get sassy.
Yeah, Lewis is annoyed. Like, they made some comment about how, they need to do their research. And Lewis is like, well, that's what you said to me when I asked you for help. And Bridger goes, you didn't ask me for help in developing the Stinger. You asked me for UEO money for a concept you hadn't even put on paper yet. So, no, this is not the same thing. And Professor's saying, I put on a lot more frames on the screen than Bird of Prey 5. It should be 1 frame every 5 seconds. But you do get a second of on each side of crossfade. So it gives the illusion that once every 3 seconds you're seeing a frame. But it is 1 frame every 5 seconds, just as a reference to see what's going on as we are discussing this. And maybe I need to slow it down. Maybe that's why they got upset last week. Meanwhile, you see that this guy who kind of helped out Lewis but then just left him on a beach was working in his garage, and in come these, kind of thug type people who are saying, you have to come with us, and we're going to take all this property with you. Like, even though this is stuff you made, it is Hydrogear's technology, because all your ideas belong to Hydrogear. You signed the contract. And then you find out that not only are they there to take the vehicles, they're actually going to kidnap him. Somehow, they believe that his contract with Hydrogear, which he left a long time ago, somehow that entitles Hydrogear to control where he is, which is a insane concept. But we do get a really nifty device, and that is the taser yo-yo, where the guy throws it out. It's like this hockey puck looking thing, and as soon as it touches our mad scientist, he gets completely knocked out, and it immediately retracts like a yo-yo.
Yeah, the taser yo-yo was all the rage in 2018.
Oh yeah, and can you blame him? I mean, you miss the guy, you pull it back and you get to try again. It's a much better concept than our current gas cartridges where you got one shot and that's it. So Hitchcock is really in a upset mood right now. Ford comes in and makes an innocuous comment about, "Oh, you're still here?" And she kind of, bites his head off a bit. Like, obviously I'm still here. You can see that I'm still here. Why are you asking dumb questions? And and she's complained that Lewis needs to figure out the hierarchy of project management, that, it's the Gazelle. She made it. She gets to name it. And, she's really upset. And Ford's like, you know what? Yes, you did some R&D money, or got some R&D money from UEO, but you can always pay it back. And she makes an insane comment here. She says that she only makes $2,700 a month. $2,700 a month. She's like, I only make $2,700 a month, and I have a condo that I can't sell, and there's no way I can pay this money back. So I did the math, and if you translated 1993 $2,700 a month into 2020 money, she would have an annual salary of right about $220,000 a year. You make bank in the UEO.
And don't forget the comment where Ford said Lucas could use a girlfriend. She says, "Is that all you guys think about?" I was like, "Nah, I like sports too."
Yeah. Hey, Sci-Fi Nation. How are you doing tonight? He says, "Greetings, Life with Matthew and fellow nerds." Greetings right back at you, my friend. So here are at the Hydra Gear building proper, and you see that they are the ones who stole UEO, the Stinger, the Gazelle Stinger. And this guy's really upset about it. And he's upset for a couple reasons. First of all, he's upset because he actually had this idea a decade ago. He said, this is what the future is. This is what's going to make us money. And apparently this guy used to be his boss, and he said that you're an idiot and fired him. And even though they decided not to go with it at the time, because he had the idea at all, Hydra Gear owns it, even though it was his idea, which, that's just one of the crazy things to me. The idea that if you are working for a company and you develop something in your free time, the company can still own that, depending on what contract you sign. Fortunately, I worked for a company that they kind of had something close to that in their clause, but the contract was only anything you develop specifically for work belongs to us or the client, depending on how their contracts are done. But it's really weird how many contracts out there actually have nomenclature like that. Which Project Prometheus would probably take care of that. And, the bully guy is kind of trying to assert his dominance over our mad scientist friend. And he's saying, you need to sit down. You need to do this. And the guy's like, no, I can't sit down. I never could sit down. And it's weird. The guy's like, the guy is like trying to assert his dominance, but it's like, what do you think you're doing here? The guy was brought to work, so let him work. But it turns out that he is one step ahead. He puts in a couple of these sonic devices, and he activates a sonic device that completely incapacitates everyone around him. He says, this device was designed to repel sharks, keep them away underwater, but it's not so effective on land, except as a, kind of non-lethal deterrent. You see, I always plan ahead. That's why I'm one step ahead. So with that, he gets out of here. And they did kind of try to rebuke him in the scene for spying on the UEO. And he says, well, yeah, but there's a big difference between me sitting there and just getting data on what what's going on and actually stealing their sub. Springtime is saying, Life with Matthew, she was saying $20,000 and $20. No, she said she made $2,700 a month, or $2,700 a month. And even if that was 2018, technically, that's still a really decent salary to make $2,700 a month. And Sci-Fi Nation, thank you so much for your donation. Says, I love the game stream. Where's the fake quarter for flipping the decisions? It is right here. I still got it. And it's not fake. If I'll focus there, yep, there you got the heads. And here you can see the tails. So see, it's not a fake quarter. It's real. So Krieg is, oh gosh, what was Krieg trying to get right there? He was talking to his kind of the quartermaster for the UEO, the guy that he got the beef from in our last episode.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what they were looking for.
I forget, but they've gotten better, or not better. They've kind of improved things a little bit.
I think he was looking for somebody's address or something.
Oh, that's what it was. He wanted the address. And the guy was saying, no, I can't give you that. That's, classified. And he's like, well, can you at least give me the purchase order forms? Which is, we're all UEO. Can you give me the purchase order forms of our mad scientist friend? And he's like, well, yeah, okay, I can give you that. So, they now presumably have the address of where our mad scientist friend is. Oh, Sci-Fi, you're talking about the SD card. I do have that one as well. Here we go. I got it all tucked away now. There you go. My SD card. Still got it, Sci-Fi. Hey, so our mysterious Mr. Green shows up and he's trying to kidnap our mad scientist friend. Again. Which is so weird that they're trying to kidnap this guy. I know that he's really bright. He's light years ahead of where they are. But it's like, what's your end game here? You're kidnapping someone. But fortunately, right as Mr. Green shows up to kidnap him, that's when our SeaQuest allies show up. And they instead arrest this guy for trying to kidnap someone.
And Crocker's basically, make my day.
And so now they apparently have enough evidence to come in and raid the Hydro Gear facility. And everyone, tries to go running off, and Crocker shoots a couple of, stay where you are shots into the air. Tells everyone to sit down and shut up, basically. And unfortunately, they knew they couldn't use the UEO sub, but they could reverse engineer the stuff. So they completely dismantled everything so that they could find out the underlying technology and, use it for their own sub, which, again, they only have 2 days. They got 2 days until this happens, and they think that they can dismantle this and reverse engineer it enough to be able to win the contract, even though at this point, the UEO has no sub, and the guy in the garage is supposed to be kidnapped by them. So it's like, who's the competition at this point? But here we find out the reason Hitchcock hates the name The Stinger is because it's sexist. that it's a guy name for a guy thing, like boxing. And Lucas is like, what else are you supposed to call boxing?
I have to say, I think Zell's a terrible name.
Yeah, like why not the dolphin or, something more aquatic themed? But unfortunately, that's when Bridger shows up and lets them know, I'm sorry guys, but they took it apart. It's been destroyed. You're probably going to lose at this point. But you know what? Maybe we're just gonna have to build a new one. And Lucas says, well, what? Build a new one in 24 hours at this point? And Bridger says, sure. You got the plans. You got all the parts. You can do it. Which is absolutely insane. Like the idea that you could even get the parts, it's gonna be made of fiberglass at some part. The idea that you could put that in place and have it cure in 24 hours, let alone get all the wiring stuff wired up in 24 hours, is insane. But they're gonna pull it off.
Well, the crack SeaQuest crew will be no problem.
See, this is clearly how Voyager made all the shuttle pods. They just picked up the debris from the last shuttle pod, and in 24 hours, they had made a brand new one.
It all makes sense now.
And so, of course, they're doing their montage of putting it all together. And Krieg, actually, he has to call up the quartermaster again because he also needs to get the parts. So they have to wait for the parts to arrive and use those parts in 24 hours. But Krieg says, hey, I know I'm going to owe you a favor, but tell you what, I'll give you my divorce lawyer. And the quartermaster is like, ugh, you still have to salute your ex-wife. You have a horrible lawyer. You had a horrible lawyer for your divorce. Because he is married to Hitchcock here. And yes, Sci-Fi, apparently Hitchcock believes that a bee's butt is racist, a stinger. And fiberglass to go almost a mile down. That is an interesting question, Sci-Fi. Whenever we see the dolphin or the stinger in use, it always appears to be in fairly shallow water. And I'm not sure if it's just because if you didn't give the seafloor as a reference, it's hard to show how fast something is going in a show like this. But you'll see when they do their thing with this in just a minute, that it looks like you can see the seafloor and the surface in the same kind of wide angle shot. So I think they're operating in pretty shallow water. Because I mean, look at that right there. That's just fiberglass. I mean, maybe in the show it's supposed to be metal, but that's clearly all fiberglass right there. Maybe even cardboard painted, but I mean, I'm giving them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt on this one.
After all that work, it's so unfortunate that they misspelled Lewis's name on the side of the ship.
Yeah, I don't know who was in charge there. At least they got his last name right. And so we get to hear Lewis's dream. He fell asleep in the Stinger, and he imagines himself driving in like a NASCAR race, and you hear all the engines revving, which is an interesting point. You're going to see here that it looks like the Stinger uses literal jet propulsion. Like, you see almost flames coming out of the back of it, and some smoke at one point. Which, I mean, obviously, underwater, jets, not what it should be using. But you also have to wonder, where are they getting the oxygen for that? Like, you would think that's coming from the from the cabin area. So Lucas is having to breathe all those fumes. It's got to be a real short time you could be in the Stinger.
And if you're wondering why Admiral Paris here is in a suit instead of his uniform, this was unfortunately the issue of the episodes being shown out of order. Because he got a different position in an episode that hasn't been aired yet.
Oh, okay. I wonder if that's the episode we'll talk about Lewis's college also.
Possibly.
But at least you get to see that the bureaucrat who, did the red tape, he gets his comeuppance, where, he comes in with Admiral Paris, and he's like, oh, or Bridger goes, oh yeah, I remember this guy. He's the one who wouldn't let me talk to you. And Paris responds back, oh, well, I'm sure that will be a temporary issue because he's only here temporary, I'm sure. And the guy's like, what? You're firing me for doing my job, basically? Like, yeah, just because you're buddy with this guy doesn't mean he gets the fast track. This is a government contract. It would have been conflict of interest. So yeah, I did my job. But, nepotism kind of stuff. Even though they're not family, I'd still kind of put it under the umbrella of nepotism. Who's Lewis? You know Lewis. He's the guy in the Stinger right there. There's Lewis. Good old Lewis. And they're all very impressed at our mad scientist ship, which I cannot see how this thing moves, but they're doing the best they can.
Well, it's shaped like a dolphin, so that must mean it's the most awesome design.
Yeah, just minus the tail. So, Lewis is really nervous right now. He was really impressed by all the... And there's Darwin. Hey, Darwin.
Hey, Darwin, we missed you.
So he's really impressed by how tightly the mad scientist sub performed. So Lewis knows he has to compete with that. So off he does on his trial run. And this is the scene I was talking about, Sci-Fi, where as they do this racing stuff, you can see there's the surface, and then it didn't tilt down far enough in that shot, but in the same shot, you'll see that you can see the seafloor. So I mean, they're dealing with like 500 feet of water, maybe. They're definitely not deep, and they really should be. If I was testing something and trying to let it just, go all out and do all these aerial type things underwater, I'd be concerned about doing it too shallowly. So both of them are going through their stuff. They're doing the slalom back and forth. The slalom? Shalom?
Slalom, I believe.
Slalom. Yes, thank you. The slalom. I promise I can talk good. And we get beautiful music. Wonderful CGI for the time of 2018. And everyone's duly impressed with Lewis. It's hard to believe he's a teenager. He's done such an amazing thing building this. And the mad scientist, he says, no matter what happens, you did a hell of a job. You did a good job there, kid. And so they are doing a drag race at this point. It's going to be 10 miles, straight shot, as fast as you can go. That's all you have to do for this. This is what it all comes down to. Who's going to get the contract revolves around who wins this race.
I think it's great they're using a whisker as a starting signal for the race.
Now they should have had Hitchcock out there with like a T-shirt or something, but yeah, they used the whisker. So here they go, and they said straight shot, but whoops, gotta look out for the mountain underwater. Come on, Lewis. Come on, you can do it. And they're doing a pretty good pace. They've already hit the 3-mile mark. Okay, so here's the shot I was talking about. Sci-Fi. You can clearly see the surface and the seafloor there. That's some really shallow water. That's not even 100 yards of water in that shot. So he's really picking up the speed here. They're moving about 150, I believe. Did they say miles an hour? They might be in kilometer hours. But Lewis pulls ahead. They're doing 159 units a time frame at this point.
I don't know if it's said, but I would guess it would be knots.
That would be the logical one. Do 150 knots. You know what? I think they did say knots earlier in the episode. They talked about doing 110 knots. And I think that came out to like 230 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour. But, oh no, just as they are entering the home stretch, something seems to be going wrong. Lewis is losing thrust for some reason. What's going on here? And now we see there's a flame going on in one of his engines underwater. And yes, he who controls the spice controls the universe. Londo Malarari, thank you. Everyone around me dies, Mr. Matthew, except those who most deserve it. Oh, offer them my body. Another 10 minutes of this, I'll be dead. Anyway, I get that is a quote from somewhere, but my mind is blanking on the actual quote. Let's see. Google will probably know the answer. Meanwhile, unfortunately, Lewis has lost the race. His thrusters died. Darwin beats Lewis. You see, there goes Darwin across the finish line. And finally, poor Lewis, smoking underwater. I mean, that's a technological marvel right there. Let's see. Everyone around me dies, except those who most deserve it. Let's see what Google has to say for me. I guess I could try the name instead. That might be a quicker way of finding it. Londo Molari.
If I'm not mistaken, that's a character from Babylon 5.
Ah, yes, there we are. Okay, and I actually recognize him. He's the main character with the hair. And see, I would recognize that quote if I did the Babylon 5 reviews. So I just need to get off my butt. And his mom 2.0 is, giving Lewis the pep talk. You should be very proud of yourself. But, the mad scientist guy, he's actually kind of a stand-up guy. He gives Lewis some encouragement and says, "You got a great future." And Dad 2.0, Captain Bridger, steps in and says, "Hey, come on. Aren't you going to congratulate him?" And so, of course, he congratulates him. And then the mad scientist says, "And, you need to check the oil injector." And he says, "Bridger, I'm surprised you didn't see that." And Bridger responds with, "Actually, I did." And Hitchcock and Lewis are just shocked. Like, what? You knew and you didn't tell us? And he's like, well, yeah, I offered to discuss anything with y'all, and y'all didn't take advantage of it. I taught you the theories. I taught you everything you need to know. And of course, you know, they're like, well, you let us lose. He goes, no, y'all made your own mistakes. And sometimes you learn more from your mistakes. And, you know, ha ha ha, everyone's fine. And Lewis ends with, well, all right, we can call it the Gazelle. And Hitchcock is like, oh, you little punk. And so we find out as our parting gift that there was there actually is a sub that goes on this principle of mimicking sea life, where instead of having some sort of hydrodynamic propulsion like a propeller or something, instead it uses the shape of a dolphin tail, and it's called the Vash. And I actually looked it up. It is a thing they made. The most I can find about it was a GeoCities page. Which, John, do you remember the GeoCity pages from back in the day?
I do remember.
It is 1990s web just to perfection. The background that makes the text illegible, the poor font choices, the pictures just randomly strewn about. It's a thing of beauty. Just a thing of beauty. The buttons. Oh, those old buttons. I remember having to code to do those buttons on pages like that. And they just never land where you expect them to. But that's the only thing I can find about it. Like, I did find they were... In 2006, they finally tested it, and it worked. They never talked about how fast it went. They took a couple shots of it, kind of porpoising up out of the water, but they never showed you how high it really got. They obviously took the photo right as it crested, and so it's like, you know, you're not giving me any details about the actual sub, and then it just kind of quietly disappeared in the background. But yeah, I think there's probably a reason we don't see more subs designed that way. I can't imagine that the back and forth motion would get you the speed boost you're hoping for compared to just traditional propellers. Like you lose a lot in terms of translating a circular motion, which is what you get from an engine, into this back and forth motion. Like you basically have to do a train design, you know, like a train where you have your position, instead of it being on the center of the shaft or the center of the wheel, you attach it to the edge of the wheel, such that the motion of pushing out and pulling back gets you that circular motion. But I don't know, you would lose a lot in terms of speed. I think the reason why these things look so cool is it looks like a dolphin, and people are easily impressed by that. Captain Drake is saying, if you do a Babylon 5 review, I will join you. Very cool. And Professor Brainy Specs is saying that you have to stick with it. It takes a season for it to really start clicking. I don't think I've even seen one episode of it. Like, I don't think it was a series that I started to watch and went, this is stupid, and stopped watching. I think I just never even started watching it. Like, I missed it. And it's sad because, you know, one of my best friends loves Babylon 5. And so, you know what, I might be able to get a copy from him, because I haven't found any place where you can get like stream Babylon 5 or something, which that is one of the hard things. How do you even spell Babylon? Babylon? That is so not it. Babylon 5 complete series. DVD for $100, DVD for $90. But I mean, that's 5 seasons, so you wouldn't need all 5 at once.
Jeff says it's on HBO Max.
Okay. And Robert Rose Jr. is saying it's available here on YouTube. Is it really? I don't think it's supposed to be. Babylon 5 season 2 was 1994, which, okay, so yeah, it started off the exact same year as Deep Space Nine. If it came out in '94 for season 2. But yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be on YouTube. It should not be on YouTube. I do when I do this. When we do this, I want to make sure that I either have access to it legally. I want to have access to it legally, either through purchasing it, which I wish I could get like a Blu-ray copy if I was going to do this, but I doubt they actually have a Blu-ray copy. You know, kind of like this TNG and Voyager. Uh-oh. I lost all my screens. What the heck? You still there?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, wow. I don't know what happened here. All my screens have suddenly disappeared. So I will not be able to see what anyone says from this point on. I hope that I'm still visible at least. Can you still see me, John?
I can still see you on YouTube, yes.
Okay. So the good news is, though it sucks that my monitor's just disappeared and I won't be able to see comments, I at least have my tablet, and my tablet lets me control all my StreamYard stuff, or not StreamYard, my OBS stuff, such that even though this is really insane, not that big a deal. We can keep doing this. So with that, I guess let me just say, let's talk about the episode. What did you think of today's episode? Was there any part that made you go, well, that was ridiculous? Oh, I hope I've lost sound. You still there? Oh gosh, I've lost everything. What have I done? Well, I got my... Huh. You there, John? Weird. So I do see John talking in the little bar, but I do not see... We're going to try and restart my audio engine. Let's see. John, are you there? Hello, John.
Hello?
Oh, thank goodness. There we
Hello?
go. Okay, so yes, I can see you. Sorry about that, everyone. I do see... I see the chat's back up. I got my windows back. I have no idea what happened there. Gosh, I want to replace this computer so bad. It's dying. But unfortunately, no video cards, so I'm stuck for the moment. But we are back. Sorry about that for a second there. So, John, I'm afraid I missed your response. What were you saying in terms of anything that was just kind of like, this is bad, this is ridiculous?
Nothing that bad, but I was wondering, like you said, what is this company planning to do long term? They're just going to keep this guy locked up all the time and make submarines for them?
Yeah, is he just gonna, like, okay, we got what we want, and now we kill you? Because that was kind of the vibe I got, that their next step was just to straight up murder the guy.
Yeah, I got that impression as well. It's like, that seems like a bit much to me. But overall, I thought it was a fun episode. I thought Bridger was on point this time. I think everybody in their place, not getting too full of themselves.
And I know we've talked about this in the past, but I did really enjoy the fact that this was another Bridger light episode. You know, this isn't the Captain Bridger show. This is an ensemble crew, and we've gone to do a Krieg-centric episode. We got to do a Ford-centric episode. Crocker has certainly had some highlights throughout these episodes. We kind of gotten some Lewis episodes with the photon bullet, and the one with the kids who were trapped on the nuclear thing, whatever. So we've gotten a lot of just across the board episodes focusing on different people, and I like that we haven't focused on Bridger in a long time, because I feel like we know everything we need to know about Bridger at this particular moment. That they really established it in the first 2 episodes, the premiere of SeaQuest. you saw who he was, you saw where he came from, and you saw his mindset. And so getting to explore the rest of the crew is making for a really fun season. In terms,
I also
oh, go on.
So I'd say I appreciate that at the end they didn't have the cliche ending where, after spending 24 hours to build this thing back from scratch, all of a sudden they won over the guy who's been developing this device for years.
Yes.
This ending was much more realistic.
I also, I guess my one, and that was my one, like, really, is that they were able to rebuild it in 24 hours. If they had stopped them after some minor damage, I could have believed, okay, yes, we fix it 24 hours later. But the fact that you saw them rebuilding it from scratch. I know he said you have all the parts and blueprints, but it's like, no. Krieg had to order more parts, and they didn't even use the parts that were cut up. Like, they had to rebuild this from scratch, basically. So that was like 24 hours. I don't buy it. But even with that, it was a very, very fun episode. Another strong entry into the first season of SeaQuest. And with that,
We have an exciting.
Oh, go on.
So we have an exciting guest star coming up in next week's episode.
That is right. I did see that. Next week we have, I believe, William Shatner.
Indeed, we do. Ruthless dictator, and he wants Darwin.
Oh, who wouldn't, apparently?
Oh, of course.
I mean, it's
He's a man of taste,
Darwin.
after all.
Yeah. I mean, first it was the regulator who wanted Darwin because dolphins at one point evolved off the land, but then they knew something was up and they returned to the sea with whales. So what's the secret, Darwin? Do you know the secret? Yes, the secret is in you. Okay, thanks, but I was hoping for something more concrete. Gosh, that episode. So, okay, we got another Darwin-centric episode. I guess there are times I wish it was more the Captain Bridger show. And that's when Darwin is the center. Dolphins, the horses of the sea. Well, guys, I guess let's go ahead and wrap it up here. Because I do need... like I said, I got a lot of work, unfortunately, I gotta be doing, so I can't be staying up too crazy late these days. But as always, thank you for hanging out with us, and we look forward to seeing you next week for episode 19, whatever its name is.
Good night, everyone.
Something like this. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, and be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.